Welcome to The Grant, the EU funding podcast. The Grant. My name is Niels Tudor Winter, and I'm the creator, editor, and host of The Grant. The Grant is an independent, non-commercial podcast initiative with the ambition to dig into all corners of the EU R&D funding system on topics of interest for the full EU R&D funding community. I start to have quite some research organizations that have passed through the grant, and it is always very interesting to dig into how they are working. It also means that I can start to move into some more specific topics instead of a general conversation about how they work with EU funding. One of my old colleagues from P&O now works for the French public research organization INRAE. This organization has chosen to develop sort of an internal grants consultancy unit. Not private in the sense that they are on the open market, but they are being hired, so to say, by some of the many institutes under the INRAE umbrella. I wanted to get an idea of how that setup works in all practicality, and open up the window a little bit and get a peek view into one of the largest R&D organizations in Europe. I managed to get 3 nice INRAE people on board to share the project's idea from the research lab to the consultant towards project implementation. Johan Lecuona, Louise Vast and Karine Latouche shared these insights with you all and me. It became a long talk, and therefore it has been divided into 2 episodes. Last week, in the first half, we dug into the specific organizational structure of INRAE in relation to EU R&D funding acquisitions, and we went through step by step the path from the idea pops up in the research team and to the submission of a proposal, and eventual project implementation. In this second half, the panel unfolds a concrete project as an example of the approach. We run through the BAT model project, where we go through shortly about the project, the origin of the proposal, how the proposal phase went, the consortium identification and collaboration with the external partners, and of course the proposal preparation process and how they worked internally in INRAE on the process in between the different departments here. It's very interesting. Please enjoy. Grant. We need the time to talk about the project, right? I want to do that because it's a concrete example of how you're working as an organization with these things. So the project. First of all, congratulations, of course, with winning it. Now, Karine, what's it about?
So the project is a BAT model, so it means Better Agri-Food Trade Modeling for Policy Analysis. So the objective of this project, in few words, is to improve the existing trade models that the European Commission use when negotiating international trade agreements. So, for instance, one of the recent agreements signed between the European Union and Canada needed some negotiating issue and discussions. And for each type of clause included in the agreement, the European Commission can simulate this clause and to see if the European Union is a winner or loser because of this specific clause. And the issue is that now trade agreements are more and more comprehensive, and we need lots of tools to better simulate what is going on and what is under negotiations. So in this call, we have to improve the model the European Commission use according to different topics. So I can just give you an idea of what it is. So for instance, is to take into account geographical indication, as it is an important issue for European Commission. We have to take into account non-tariff measure or quality differentiation. So I will not go into details, but the issue is that this topic was really a methodological topic involving mainly economic research. in international trade. So that's what I wanted to do. So we decided, so maybe we go into details later, but the proposal we submitted was the initial idea was to mix some simulation models. It's the main issue of this topic, that we can improve with some microeconomics or estimation of what is going on once an agreement is signed. So we work on what happened in the past to improve the simulation of the future. If to be
How
short.
how's the so from the face of it sounds like you have it's quite academic.
Yes.
Partner consortium.
Yes, it was not a multi-actor project, so we are only academic people. We are 16 institutions from 11 countries and mainly academic partners, already often involved in European projects, so very aware a lot of constraints and commitments.
Yeah, but I guess a lot. So is this primarily related to agricultural part of trade negotiations, or is it broadly about trade?
No, it's agricultural and food trade.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's extremely specific.
Yes.
So I guess you have economics, you have forecasting, all kind of modeling, survey, simulation, stuff like this.
Yes, exactly.
So okay, and then you guess you also have partners covering your political science and your agricultural stuff like this, or what?
Yes, we have some part. This is not the main component, but of course, in each academic partner, we have some political analysis of the different content of the agreements and so on. Of course, it's an important part also.
It's interesting that the Commission throws money after something that is benefiting itself directly, but it's of course it's good.
It's benefiting each member state involved in these agreements, of course.
All of us, Karin.
Yes, of course.
All right. So this means that this is something that you are strong in your research team.
Yes, we are strong in international trade modeling, but we are not, and that was an important issue. We are not, let's say, developers or in charge of a specific model that the European Commission already used. It was our main issue at the beginning. When we wanted to be in this story, in this project, before the decision was taken that we coordinate, the issue was we have a way to improve the existing model, but we don't develop our own model. So we have to join teams that have this type of model. So for instance, it's for those who know this model, Caprice, Geobox, Magnet or Mirage, it's important model already used by the European Commission, but none is developed by INRAE. So our main challenge was to join this team and convince them that we were relevant to improve the type of models they use. And it was a challenging point. So at the beginning, when I said, okay, we have to be in this story, I discussed with someone in Italy working on the same topic as us. We said, okay, we have to work on this. And we contacted some key teams working on this type of models. And we had an important first meeting where we say, okay, we want to work on this. They were already thinking in working on this also. So we had to discuss, do we work together or will there be at least two different consortia and we'll be competing at the end.
So this, what you're touching upon now, it's something where I need to check with Louise. Are you helping your dear colleagues like Karine, do you support them with try to understand if there are a flagship proposal on the way where you need to attach yourself? Do you do this kind of intelligence to understand where? So now Karine, she reached out herself to an Italian colleague in the network, but do you try to do a more coherent screening to understand the most important players? Check with is there something going on? Where do we need to go to find the biggest chance for funding? Is that something that you do?
I think it's maybe more a scientific issue.
Okay.
Because as researcher, we know who are the people who can easily answer the call or not.
So,
and then maybe there will be, as some big university, I think, Louise, you will complete. I think INRAE knows if some other big institute are also interested in the call.
Yeah, that's why I was thinking, because we, as I say in introduction, we have a strong dialogue with some institution, and with them, of course, we are talking also about the European opportunities, if they want to go or if we want to go, and so on. So we are doing this kind of screening, looking at where each of us will try to push a proposal, and if we can go together. But I can say I don't do the scientific analysis to try to see on this topic, this partner in particular is the expert in Europe, and we have to go absolutely with them because they know better in the research.
So it's a responsibility, so to say, on Karine's shoulders, so to say.
Yeah, and when we have information about partners, for us is never an obligation to have them in the consortium. If, for example, I already talked about Wageningen, so I can stay on this example, but if I know they want to go on a topic and they want to be engaged in a consortium, I give the information to the researcher, like Karine, but I never force them to take them. It's really the research unit who evaluate if this partner is interesting at the scientific point of view, if he will bring something, if the person, because you can have an interesting institution, but the person who is interesting really completely by the call is maybe less interesting, I can say that. So really it's in their hands in the end.
Thanks. So Karine, you checked and you understood that you had good cards on the hand, so to say, to make a consortium that would be solid for the call. Is that correct? Understood?
Exactly.
Yeah. So at which stage did you then say, okay, then we can do this? We have. Did you do the reach out to the different key partners yourself? The next step.
Indeed. So the first step was internally with my colleague from my unit, where they say, okay, you will manage, either coordinating or just participating, but you will manage for us the participation. Then I met with my Italian colleague, who was really important for this topic. And together we went to meet the other starting consortium working on simulation model. And then we had this meeting, 4 of us, and we discussed to decide to work together or not. Then they say, okay, yes, you can improve our model. You can help us to improve our model, so we can work together. So we decided to make a joint consortium. And then, as Wageningen was involved, it was not clear if INRAE will be the coordinator, but after discussion, they say, okay, you can take the coordination. because INRAE is a big institute, you have lots of facilities to make a proposal and to then coordinate the project. The other team were not so interested in. So that's why I was the coordinator and the INRAE was the coordinating team. Then just after, I asked of course to INRAE to choose INRAE transfer to accompany me and to help me in the next step of the consortium building, because the idea was to find a good number of partners and the good allocation of money and the good allocation of work. So it was that's why I needed project engineering issues and advice, and that's why INRAE transfer were very good for that.
Yeah. So here now we move into, so you make the basics that you need to be able to start such a process. You need the core partners on board to nod, and you need someone. It's not always the case that you have the coordinator at this stage, but you actually managed to say, okay, that we're going to lift that. So you have the basis to move on, right?
Yeah.
And then, of course, what you say here, that is, it's key for the next part, where you probably, Johan?
It's always a question of balance. As soon as we have this first set of partners, we need to define what the project will have to include to answer the call properly.
Yeah.
So we need to always revert to the call for project to make sure that we develop a proposal that will really be relevant.
Now I'm going to be a little geeky here. So I need to, because this is interesting for listeners. So how do you do that collaboration process between Karine and between you? Do you go into an intense meeting chain where you sit down and look at, so okay, it's okay that it's fine that you have identified the basis here, but we need to look at this, we need to look at this, we need to we have some partner issues here that we need to fill in, we have a value chain that needs to be settled, we need to have a concrete project idea that is strong enough, and so on and so forth. How do you, what kind of collaboration do you step into there? Can you try to describe that?
We first establish a team to lead the proposal. So the team between the coordinator and the consultant, or the team of consultants, is really crucial. Usually here we work as a team of two colleagues here at INRAE Transfer who work with the coordinator.
Yeah, so you work in tandems.
We work in tandems, and so what is crucial is really to build this team to be on the same line and to understand well. So first of all, we sit with the coordinator and we try to understand what are their intention and what is the EU desire in this call for project, and to see the links and to see if we are covering fully and to see what is missing. And there's a little bit also of a training element that is inherent. So we make some capacity building while building the proposals.
This is what we talked about before. Good, yeah.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. The coordinators we work with are not always very familiar with EU projects, and so supporting coordinators in building EU projects includes an element of capacity building, of training, because working on this, they complete their scientific expertise with elements from EU project engineering, I would say, and understanding better the EU expectations, how to read in between lines of the EU call for projects, what's behind, who wrote the topic, where does the topic come from, what's the history of that, what's the history behind that, why would the European Union bother with funding a project on this issue? Was it is useful for the EU or for society? So exploring all these issues, first with the coordinator, and then we tend to do that now also with the partners. To also, once the team between the coordinator and the consultant is established, the second step in the human dimension, as I was referring to before, is to establish the team for the project with the partners. And this is a crucial element because this is indispensable to work a collaboration for true, not just the project of the coordinator to which partners will subscribe more or less. We need really a partner engagement and a partner who feel belonging to the projects.
Exactly.
So we are working hard on that so that the work is shared and the risk is shared as well.
Yeah, it's when it comes to the consortium and partners, that's one of the most important roles in relation to that, to get everybody to feel ownership for what's going on. Yeah, to create that, which is difficult. Yeah, because it's sometimes
that's not easy.
In a project. My best guess is that in a project like this, because it's extremely focused topic, and you don't go in all kinds of direction with, you have to have an SME, you have to have civil society, you have to have, some of these big pillar 2 collaboration technology projects, right? Here it's a little bit more, it's mostly academic sphere, so it's you're talking to the same narrative, so to the same discourse, it's easier to understand each other, the languages between the fields.
Not so much, because in this project, surprisingly, we had, and Karin would explain that better than me, but we had actually 2 communities of economist researchers that were not really speaking the same language and that didn't have exactly the same culture. And one of the really appealing challenges that BAT model has is to have these 2 communities working together and to unlock the research questions thanks to this collaboration between the econometricians and the modelers.
Oh, goodness, oh my God. It's if there's anything fearful, then it's academic traditions that no. Karin, can you unfold this for us?
No,
I'm joking, of course. Okay. But it's of course an issue that when you have if we're talking about building a collaborative spirit in a consortium, you sometimes have diverging views on what needs to go on. So you need to agree on those things. So what happened in that process? How did you manage to get people walking on the same path? So say because you won the project.
It's for Johan or for me? Oh, sorry. Go, Johan.
I was thinking probably by involving people from the 2 groups in the reflection since the beginning.
Yeah.
And to have the opportunity to have them bringing the views and their perspective to the problem. And that provided quite interesting discussions.
Of course it did, but the most important thing, because you will have in most collaborative projects, you will have divergent opinions about which way to go on certain topics, certain elements of the project. So you will have the boxing ring being put up, and then you will have a little bit of an exchange of jabs. But the most important thing here is that everybody has a motivation to work with the topic overall. Yeah, so you will find a way through.
Yeah, what is there's always this kind of debate, and I think that's really valuable. That may be a little bit surprising at first, but it is really valuable. What is important is to keep in mind that this debate is for the interest of the project, and that anything that we have to have in mind is the interest of the project. And if we have to go through this debate, sometimes with a kind of tension, but as long as the output is for the interest of the project, that is all good. That is all good.
Then at least it's not boring.
It is not. Never.
Yeah, I was about to
Never.
say.
Building an EU project. In 14 years, I never felt bored with building EU projects. It's always, each time it's a different story.
Yeah, it's more like feeling, like the struggle of being sane. Mentally stable after these processes. That's a facilitator.
I can't tell.
Yeah, but as we already said before with Johan, when it's always the usual suspects on European projects. So in the end, people are trying again and again to do this kind of project, and we hope Karin will continue on this dynamic.
Okay, you're on air, Karin. So now let's not put Karin on the pressure.
No. One important thing also maybe because when I decided, or the four partners told me, okay, you will coordinate. The road is still long to the final proposal, and one important thing is that provide Yuan and INRAE transfer is a very important roadmap, because they are very used to submitting such proposals, so they know which time is needed for each step. And one important step, as already said, is to inform and to discuss with all partners through different going and coming back proposal and written stuff and so on. And the roadmap, which of course was not respected at all, because otherwise it would be too easy. But
important to have it.
Yes, but it's very good to have it and to see when do as I, as coordinator, had to send something to the other and then wait for their feedback and then include this feedback and so on. So it was really important in this story to be sure we don't miss any important step. So this is a crucial point, more from, I would say, project engineering, but it's really a key aspect of this story.
Yeah, and I'm probably, because Emmanuelle, she comes from a hardcore grants consultancy background, and in P&O, where I've also been working, I know exactly that these things, that's what you need to be. That's why you hire a consultant, right? That's to have everything super structured, that you know exactly, that can guide people through the very complex process, because most partners will focus on the content of the what they want to do, but it's a very, very multifaceted work to do these things, and to have, you can't know unless you have a certain background and have all your tools in place, right? I guess, Johan, you also have a whole lots of folders with different tools for budgeting, for planning, for timelining, for all these things, to put things into put a fence around things for everybody, for the process to be clearer for everybody, and to make sure that even though you cross over deadlines, you at least you have a certain fence around things, so you have it making sure you reach submission deadline.
Yeah, we do have kind of basis, but as I said, it's each time a different story. Look, we always need to really adapt our tools, because when we are arriving into a proposal building, it's not always at the same stage because of this question of maturity we discussed before.
Mm-hmm.
And also because we are involved in proposal building with more or less anticipation towards the call deadline.
Mm-hmm.
So we have an ideal world with a lot of time to build things, with a lot of commitment of partners that we can meet several times and who will involve and dedicate their time. This never happens. So we always need to adapt our tools to the reality. That is that we cannot always do A, then B, then C, then D, but mostly several things at the same time. And the ideal world is not happening, and we need to adjust. And that's why this makes it interesting, because it's always different each time. So it's a lot of tailoring. And that's why it's much time consuming.
Yeah. Now I want to I start to have a little bit of look on the time here. So I want to talk a little bit about, so that's understood. The proposal preparation process. So the writing phase itself, how do you work like so internal? Do you write things for Carine? How does that work? I guess. So the research team, they provide the content side of the research part, and then how do you work together on these things?
What we do first, we do not start with writing or have people writing.
Mm-hmm.
We first start to build the project. And once we started to build the project, then once this project is already engaged, then we start have the group writing. So sometimes I read or hear here and there proposal writing. Yeah, but it's not the full of the story. Before proposal writing, you have the proposal building.
Yeah,
it's not just a question of writing.
Proposal development.
Yeah. So we need to first agree on what we will do together. And once this is strong enough, then we can go to the writing phase. If you go to the writing phase too early, you will do, undo, and redo very, very many times.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea is there, and it's always sometimes it brings a quite of worry from either the coordinators or the partners who panic a little bit because they see that time is flying. Mm-hmm. And we are not starting to write already. Yeah, but what can we write if the idea are not mature enough?
And sometimes we're panicking too.
Yeah,
we all do. That's part of this. There's a lot of panic.
So to make this proposal development as quietly as possible, we need time to make first the thinking element, and then when it's sufficiently advanced, start with writing. Of course, when you write, the thinking continues. Of course, there are until the end almost, you have both processes running at the same time.
It's not a linear process. No. Proposal development is a circular process. You keep going back. It's like problem.
We have a lot of iterations. Yeah. When you write, for example, when you write your project methodology, sometimes you realize that you are missing an expertise in your partnership.
And that's when it's important when we validate the support of INRAE transfer, we want to be sure that they will have enough time. And we have a small rule. We try not to validate support if there is less than 3 months until the deadline. And it's really the maximum we can do, because I think 6 months will be largely the normal way to do it.
If you have to build from scratch, indeed. Now, important question. So when you step into this, for this project, Bad Model, is it then you, Johan, that takes the responsibility for the writing, for the development process?
Yeah. So what we actually, me and my team, we write few in the proposal. We write really the project management aspects, some items of the impact part, but of course we don't write anything about science. What we do is to organize the writing and to distribute the responsibilities in the writing, and to make sure that at the end of the day, the proposal is a nice to read document, and so that the reader will not have this impression of patchwork effect of a document written by a series of people. So we need a sort of unity, but also we can't have, in most of the cases, we can't have only one people writing from A to Z, because it's too much work for a single person, and because we need to involve the competencies of everyone. So it's all a matter of organizing the contribution and the raw text incoming, and who will refine it and who will put it into the whole text. So when I started this work, it was a lot of emails with attachments, and it was a nightmare of handling the emails. And now we have finally some reliable and user-friendly collaborative tools for collaborative editing. It helps a lot, and all the time and effort we don't put in email attachment management, we can put this time and effort and focus really on the content and on organizing things. So what we do is much more organizing the writing, steering the group, and making sure that the text is really compliant with the EU template, but also clear enough for the evaluators, even if some of them do not have sufficient expertise for the full project. And so how do we do that? To make sure that we understand the overall meaning, because even those of us who are scientists by background, in almost no case we have the expertise of the specific domain which is about. For example, BAT model is about economy. As an agronomist, I'll have almost no knowledge in economy. So I was totally naive on the subject of this project. And this was my strength.
Yeah, but you know what? That's like being a private consultant. You know, I've been writing proposals on ICC security in airports. I'm a historian. You're right. What do you want? But it's you're not supposed to. You're supposed to be the devil's advocate, right? You
Exactly.
know the process of how developing. Your knowledge is about developing a proposal towards the European Commission, and their knowledge is the content in that, so to say. But it sounds a lot like the way you would work for a client as a consultant. But you're closer because you're inside the same organization, right? It's, of course, you take out a profit part of it, so to say, which is an important part, I would say.
As Karin said, we work in the same building, in the same corridor. So when we say in-house consultant, you can take it literally. We are really in-house.
Is there anything specific about this process, Karin, that you would like to share with the listeners about your role in that? So you've been delivering the research content, so to say, the proposal idea content. You've also probably been involved in a lot of work package talks, carve outs, and so on.
No, lots of things have already been said. In my case, I was really interested. I motivate my partners to create a core group. So we were 4 at the beginning, then 6 to write the proposal. It was the closer, let's say, participants who helped me a lot in writing and reading what I had wrote and so on. And it was an important group for me, very useful and very very useful, very
so
relevant.
Strong teamwork.
Yes.
Yes,
and then of course we had the advice by Johan, but it was a really important step. But of course, as Johan mentioned, it was important also to make the other partners to be on board, and it was maybe sometimes quite complex because we were working very well with the core group, and maybe we could forget the other partners. So it was really important that Johan told us, okay, you have to send what you have said or written to the other partner and wait for their feedback before going on. Otherwise, they will not be on board and it will be very complex afterwards.
Well, this is a part of, so that's sort of the capacity building Johan was talking about. So next time you'll do that, you know exactly that you have sort of a you have some social codes, so to say. You have that you abide by when you do this kind of process. You have to respect everybody equally, so to say. You have to make sure that everybody receives the information. You have to also, when you have budget discussions and negotiations, right? You have to respect the what people they sort of expect for the work they have to do, and then you can go into a discussion about that. But yeah, it's definitely there's a lot of what do you say, human elements also that you need to understand when you do these kind of projects. You need to not understand, but pay attention to, so to say, things that you wouldn't normally do. So yeah.
But it's important not to have everyone on board when writing, otherwise it's totally impossible. So it's a trade-off. Yes, it's a trade-off between being efficient and being inclusive of everyone, every partner, at all time. We have to find the good.
Yeah, it's a matter of making the partners that have the specific knowledge of a specific topic, that they deliver that. So you suck that brain for that information. You need to describe how to solve that specific problem, and then you have Johan in collaboration with you and your team that sort of gets right things through. So make sure that there's a red thread, right? Yeah, it's a huge work now. We have to slowly move on to the end here. So you submitted this, and when did you start the project? When was it kicked off?
The kickoff was we started in the 1st September 2020. So in COVID time. So we had to start with a video conference for 2 years. It was quite boring and quite disappointing because we wanted to meet each other and to really collaborate together. So now it's in 2022, I think we started to meet physically, and it was really nice time. So with Johan, we organized meetings and annual meetings with maybe more time for discussion and social discussion, more than only focusing on science. To be sure, people work together, and this is starting now, so maybe quite late because the program, the project will end by the end of August 2024. But some nice collaboration are improving. Of course, we did what was written in the proposal. It's not an issue.
Of course you did.
Of course. But maybe collaboration could have been more developed than it is because of the COVID period. But
yeah, there wasn't any COVID, so there wasn't any social things to distract you from keeping your nose in the books.
Yes, of course.
But I'm sorry,
No,
it was crappy for everybody, right? So
yes,
it's,
yes.
perfectly understand. I think, but your luck is probably that at least what you had to carry out didn't involve user groups or because for instance, I had a project in the podcast project in that was related to training university students, university courses and stuff like this, and of course that's that was a huge impact on the work they could do, stuff like this. No. All right. Here in the end, I would like to talk a little bit about the experience that you took, the experience that you over time have, accumulated in the organization, combined, so to say. So first of all, the way you're working here, have there been things, and now of course but you've been there many years, Johan, and you have a certain history, all of you in the organization. Are there things you have adjusted in practices or way of working, so to say, where you saw that it would be more, that it was that was a way of working that you had to adjust because it wasn't efficient? Or are there any things that you have changed over the years on this?
In our organization or in our collaboration?
In the collaboration between you and this way of working that you have here.
For me, I would say, as I am a new coordinator, I would say I evolve every month in this collaboration. I'm lucky because Johan is just near my office, so it's very easy. And I think if it's an advice I can give to Louise for the next INRAE transfer collaboration, to keep an eye on this aspect of proximity, geographical proximity.
So have the office next to you.
Yes. Yes. Okay. It's really important, I think, for the coordinator and to get trust in this work. I think it's a key element from my side. In any case.
Johan, is there any thing in the way that because all organizations have internal way of working where you sometimes have this we need to adjust, or this we need to adjust? Of course, there might be things that you don't want to share with the public, but is there anything that you do want to share?
Yeah, something that I found interesting in this project. It was a two-step proposal.
My point is, in general, your general way of working with this approach, where you have, the way you work between your departments and different sectors. You understand?
I got it. But
excuse me.
That. yeah. Don't worry. We had the luxury to meet the partners physically twice during the proposal development.
Yeah.
Once during the development of the step 1, and a second time during the development of step 2.
Mm-hmm.
So this is because it was a two-stage proposal, and that we were mandated sufficiently in advance to work really on a comfortable setting.
Mm-hmm.
That also because Karin had national funding that we have in France to build the European and international cooperations.
Yeah.
So that helps a lot for the logistics. to host partners in a decent room, to feed them correctly, sometimes to pay their travel and their accommodation if the host organization can't.
Mhm.
This helps a lot.
Mhm.
And it was also important because we had the COVID just after, so it was really important.
Yeah. And so what I learned from that can be generalized is really the importance of meeting people in person when building a project.
Yeah.
After that came the COVID restrictions and the time of building projects fully remotely.
Mhm.
And now it's harder and harder to have people getting back to meeting rooms. But it's hard to build collaboration and trust only through computer-mediated means. It's, as I keep saying, it's a human adventure, and we can't build trust only through laptop screens.
Yeah.
That doesn't work. We need to see each other to create trust, to identify and solve problems.
It's a feedback I get from many of my guests.
And that makes also the cooperation nicer
and easier.
Yeah.
If it's boring, we will feel depressed. We need to have something that bring you happy to do. So we need to be happy to meet the partners. And to work together.
So generalized terms, this is something that you over the years have adjusted and focused on when you built as a coordinator the partnerships that you meet physically.
Yeah, we need to have the resources for that, or to be creative to allow that. But doing things only through video conferences, it's possible, but it's not ideal at all. It's a little bit boring, and we lose people on the way, much more than when we meet for true.
Yeah,
I think it's working for the day-to-day work too. Actually,
once you know each other, then you can work through video conference, and it's very good for the planet and for the economies, of course. But you need to meet physically at least at the first time.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's a bit trivial, but
no.
For me, it's really important.
Yeah. The Grand. All right, I think we slowly wrap this up. I have a segment that I always have in my episodes, both when I started this podcast journey myself, sitting alone in front of a microphone, and with my guests I also do it. So the toughest challenge, now what I put here in the rundown is the toughest challenge of this guy. So what is the toughest challenge that you have in this setup that you have in the collaborative setup in between you as an organization? Is that do you have where you say, okay, here we need to be very focused as individuals, that we need to inform each other? I don't know. Is there anything you can share with the listeners that?
Do you want it general or specifically for this project?
No, in general.
Maybe I can see two. One in the way we are working. I think the main challenge is the good timing to start, maybe. Because as we said before, for me, the challenge is to validate the idea of projects when I see they are on good tracks. But they cannot come with a finalized project neither, because if I'm waiting for them to have a good consortium, to understand every part of the topic, to have a good concept and everything, INRAE transfer don't have anything to do. So for me, it's quite a challenge to find the right balance when a researcher came to us to see when we feel he is ready to start the concrete work with INRAE transfer. And if we are looking at the challenge more in general, I think it's a challenge of every expectation we put on the coordinator. Because now a coordinator needs to be a good scientist, a good manager. He needs to deal with ethical issues, data issues. He needs to be ready to talk with public and policy actors, to talk to civil society, to deal with innovation aspect with private partners. So you have to do so many things, and I understand all this expectation, but it's quite a lot of pressure put on the shoulders of the scientists who want to do good research, first of all.
Yeah, that's also why it's so difficult to find coordinators.
Yeah.
So it's highly valuable, and I guess I speak for many people out there in throughout of the listeners and beyond that working with this. It's always who's going to lift that, because if you tried it once, you know exactly what it entails. And of course, some organizations, they have a priority around it that they have to do this sometimes, so they have a apparatus around them that can deal with it. But I can perfectly understand what you mean. Karin, do you have anything?
No. From my experience, I would say that the main issue is to have a good partner, a good partner as INRAE transfer who can help you, a good project
support,
good support, good project engineering to help you. And I think every project is different. So even if we'll see, I coordinate another project, it will be totally different. So I think the support is really, really important. It's a key issue, and I'm happy that INRAE found this type of support. It's really crucial.
Johan?
For me, the toughest challenge is the increasing number of cross-cutting requirements for the projects. It means that you not just have to have a good project idea that meets the call for project, but you also need to have some expertise in open science, in research data management, in taking into account the gender dimension, in ethics, etc., etc. And in the consortium, in the partnership, you do not always have these skills aboard, and you, as a EU project manager, you can't have also this expertise for all the disciplinary fields you will be working with. You can't have it because ethical issues are really different if you are working with social scientists or animal experiment scientists, or people working with health and with humans, for example. Open science practices differ very significantly from one academic discipline to another. So you can't have also this expertise covering all. So you only have like theoretical knowledge about what the EU wants, more or less. And at the beginning of the program, it's not always very precise. It's interesting. There is really a political interest, and there is a sense behind that. But it's putting a lot of pressure under the proposers, and that's making things much more difficult.
Yeah, I agree. It is increasingly being more complex content-wise, but you can also, dear listener, you also listen to the grant. There you can you'll find episodes that Johannes is referring to here. You can go into the grant and find out some guidance in there, which is a nice bridge to me landing this episode. Thanks, Johan. Before we cut off, and before you leave this episode, I'm just going to say goodbye to the dear listeners. So, dear listeners, thank you so much for staying on board till this end. I really hope you enjoyed this nice episode, digging geekily into processes in a research organization, one of the largest in France and Europe. By all means, if you find this interesting, you'll also find other things very interesting on my website, thegrant.eu. You have lots of episodes now actually on the research side. So if you are from the research community, you have the Grant Campus, my segment where you find all my episodes that are related to research, the research area. You'll also find, for Johan here, he can go and check my timeline series, which is a step-by-step guide to how to prepare a proposal. He might find that not everything is correct what I say, but at least I'm trying. While you're there and browsing around, you can also subscribe to my email list. That's important for me as a spare time podcaster. That's currency in the world that I'm working in here. So please do that. I always forget stuff, but I'm just gonna leave it at that for now. Thanks for listening to the end. Dear panel, Karine, Louise, Johan, thank you so much for coming in here in the virtual podcast studio. I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was very nice. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Nils.
And it's important for me to say that I always leave a door open for my guests to come back if they have something they specifically want to talk about. And there's enough to talk about. That's my motto of the grant, is that there's so much to talk about. So there are many things. For instance, we didn't talk about your lobby efforts, what you're doing in that corner, stuff like this. There are so many. So if you think eventually that you would like to get back and dig into things, you're always welcome. Yeah.
Duly noted.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
let's say goodbye. Let's say goodbye to the dear listeners. So bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye.